Yo, what is up guys? It's me, Zachary, back bringing some more NBA news and updates. Hope you're all having a fantastic day, but like always, you guys already know that we're going to have a lot to talk about today, so let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into it. Lego. First up in the news. Earlier on this year, we started to get some reports out questioning whether or not one of the greatest coaches in the history of coaching period would still be coaching past this season. Gregg Popovich. As back in January, Popovich was asked if he will be returning for the Spurs next season, he said that he was still on the fence, that he was unsure. And given that he's been coaching for 22 seasons and is now 70 years old, I don't think a lot of people would have been surprised if he had decided to retire after this season. Even more so given the fact that there's no Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, or even Kawhi Leonard on the Spurs roster. So there was for sure reason to believe that this very well could have been Gregg Popovich's last season as the head coach of the San Antonio Spurs. But now that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. As yesterday, when the San Antonio Spurs were cleaning out their lockers, some reporters caught up to Gregg Popovich and were able to ask him whether or not he plans to continue coaching the San Antonio Spurs and if he's had any talk with the Spurs organization about renegotiating his contract, and here's what Popovich had to say.
Next year?
That's up in the air. I'm currently, I've never talked about my contract in all these years. I've never had an agent, never talked about the contract. Just like RC and I don't talk about free agents or trades or anything. My contract is basically my business, but I'll break the rule this time. I'm currently in a negotiation, and it could very well end up either with the Portofino Flyers or Positano Pirates. I think that it's like 1/3 Positano, 1/3 Portofino, and 1/3 San Antonio, so we'll see where it ends up.
Clearly there was a lot of sarcasm in there, but one true part is that he and the San Antonio Spurs are indeed working on another contract to bring Gregg Popovich back for the 23rd straight season, meaning that the Spurs have already been guaranteed their 23rd straight playoff appearance as well. Next up in the news, we've known for quite some time now that the Brooklyn Nets have plans to shake up their roster this offseason during free agency, as they have enough money to sign 2 max-level free agents this summer, and coming off a season in which they proved themselves to be one of the more competitive rebuilding teams in the league with bright young stars such as D'Angelo Russell, Caris LeVert, and Jared Allen, the Nets are for sure going to be a team that free agents have to take a serious look at this summer, with the Nets themselves even planning to make a run at the likes of top-name free agents such as Kawhi Leonard, Kyrie Irving, Jimmy Butler, and Kevin Durant, with Kevin Durant of course being their first choice. However, that being said, the Nets aren't crazy or delusional enough to just go into the offseason with those targets in mind. They're not going Kevin Durant or bust. They do have a backup plan, and we just found out exactly what, or I should say who, that backup plan is. 76ers forward Tobias Harris. Sources have told the Post that if the Nets can't land Kevin Durant, they would love to have Tobias Harris on their side next season, though the 76ers owner Josh Harris has stated that he hopes to keep him. The 26-year-old will have a plethora of teams lined up for his services. Even if they can't add Durant, Butler, or Kawhi, Tobias Harris would for sure move the Nets even higher up on the ladder in the Eastern Conference. They landed the 6th seed this season, and if D'Lo, LeVert, and Allen all continue to improve like they did this season, plus the addition of another guy who can go out there and get you 20+ points on any night in Tobias Harris, then the Nets could potentially find themselves fighting for a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference next year. And if you consider where this team and franchise was just a couple of years ago, it seems like a freaking miracle. For our next story of the day, Steve Kerr just took some massive shots at James Harden and the Houston Rockets. We talked about all the madness that just happened in the first game between the Warriors and the Rockets yesterday, with the Rockets feeling like they got cheated out of a win because the refs weren't calling a fair game according to them, with the 2-minute report even coming out yesterday as well, and the league admitting that there were a handful of missed calls in the final 2 minutes that would have went against the Warriors and benefited the Rockets. Granted, the final shot by James Harden wasn't one of them, but still, according to the 2-minute report, there should have been a couple of fouls on Steph Curry, one coming when James Harden went out of bounds with 1 minute and 10 seconds remaining in the game. The league says that should have been called a force out foul on Steph Curry, which actually would have been huge because that would have been the 6th personal foul on Curry. So he would have been fouled out of the game and then never would have been able to hit that huge 3 that he made with 25 seconds left to go in the game. Other than that, the league says they missed a traveling call on Klay Thompson as well as another loose ball foul on Steph Curry with 5 seconds left to go in the game. So that's everything that the league says went wrong in the final 2 minutes of that Warriors vs Rockets game. Like I said though, this did not stop Steve Kerr, the head coach of the Warriors, from taking shots at James Harden and the Houston Rockets for the way they were acting about not receiving foul calls. As during an interview yesterday, Steve Kerr started off the interview by flopping onto a reporter and then pretending to be fouled.
That's good. Hang on.
Who's that foul on? Is that on Ann?
That was on Ann, yeah.
And then went on to imply that James Harden and the Houston Rockets are a bunch of floppers who have just gotten good at deceiving the refs.
What do you think about the noise coming out of Houston's camp?
It's disappointing because the focus should be on two teams who played extremely hard. I mean, watching the tape, both teams just got after it and competed. But we just watched the tape upstairs. You don't think there were 10 calls that we thought we got fouled? I mean, this is how it goes. And every coach in the league will tell you the same thing. You watch the tape and you go, man, that's a foul, that's a foul. It's the nature of the game. It's very, very difficult to officiate an NBA game. There's all kinds of gray area. And in the modern game, a lot of players have gotten really good at deception, creating contact, and I don't remember people falling down on three-point shots, all the time when I play.
Now, I do have to say that Steve Kerr does bring up some good points here. There are a lot of missed calls in literally every single NBA game. The refs aren't perfect, they're only human. But I'd also imagine that those are much easier things to say when it wasn't you who got cheated out of winning a game, when you were the one benefiting from the refs missing the call. And with that being said, if this next report is any indication, then I don't think we'll see a much happier Houston Rockets team after Game 2 tonight, as it just came out that Scott Foster has been assigned to referee tonight's Warriors vs Rockets game, and that is huge because Scott Foster has a reputation for being anti-Houston. Back in February, after a loss to the Lakers in which he fouled out of the game, James Harden went on the record to criticize Foster big time for how he officiates Rockets games, even going as far to say that Foster shouldn't be allowed to ref Rockets games at all, calling Foster rude and arrogant and saying that the league has to take a look at him because he has something personal against Harden and the Rockets. And Chris Paul also said very similar things. He's had a few run-ins with Scott Foster throughout his career. So yeah, with all of that being said, don't expect to see the Rockets too happy with the officials after this game either. Next up in the news, Game 2 between the Philadelphia 76ers and the Toronto Raptors took place last night. And to start off this game, it looked like the Sixers were going to run away with it, at the Raptors down as many as 19 points in the first half. And that was with Joel Embiid doing nothing at all on the offensive end. The Raptors, though, started to fight back to end the second quarter and quickly got right back into the game to start the third quarter. Kawhi Leonard having another great night shooting the ball as he scored 35 points on 13 of 24 shooting from the field, but unfortunately for the Raptors, it didn't matter though, as Jimmy Butler willed this Philly team to the win in the fourth quarter, as Butler scored 12 of his 30 points in the fourth to get Philly the 94-89 win, now stealing home court advantage away from the Raptors. Still though, one major concern for the Sixers in this series has to be Joel Embiid. He was shut down by Marc Gasol in Game 1, and Game 2 was no better, as Embiid only posted 12 points on 2 of 7 shooting from the field. And even though Gasol does deserve his credit, the play of Embiid also has to do with the fact that he's playing through a knee injury, with reports coming out that he has to have his knee treated 6 times per day just to be able to play. So that is awful for the Sixers, since without a healthy Embiid, their chances of making it out of the East this year like they hope to are pretty slim. You're going to need your best player to be healthy in the playoffs if you want to have a chance. So it will be interesting to see if Joel Embiid can ever start playing like Joel Embiid again. And now for what will be our final story of the day. This is going to be a really good and fun series to watch. The Portland Trail Blazers versus the Denver Nuggets. Game 1 went down last night in Denver, and it was the Nuggets who were able to secure the win on their home floor, 121-113, in what turned out to be a battle of Nikola Jokic and Damian Lillard. Lillard with 39 points while Jokic had 37. I do want to give a special shout out though to Enes Kanter as he's playing through a separated shoulder for the Blazers. Man says it's painful for him to even sleep at night, and he's still out there giving Portland everything that he can, scoring 26 points. This Nuggets team though is really impressive for such a young team with almost no playoff experience, dispatching of the tough San Antonio Spurs team in 7 games, and then a couple of days later being able to take game 1 against a more playoff experienced Blazers team who had a few days off to rest in between their rounds. And you just remember that before the playoffs started, there were rumors out there that teams in the West wanted to play the Nuggets in a 7-game series since they thought their regular season success wouldn't translate over to the postseason. Now though, I think every other team in the West can see that that definitely wasn't the case, as they have been just as good in the postseason, if not even better, especially Nikola Jokic, who has been a monster, averaging 25 points, 12 rebounds, and 9 assists per game in his playoff debut so far, almost posting a 50-40-90 shooting percentage split as well. That though is going to do it for everything that we gotta talk about today though, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, like always, go ahead and destroy that like button, as well as make sure that you are subscribed to the channel with post notifications turned on so you can stay up to date with everything that goes on in the NBA. Thank you once again for watching though. You guys already know that you are the real MVPs, and until tomorrow, keep getting the buckets, Team SDC, and I'm out of here. Peace!